Toot, toot. Wait for me, wait for me, wait for me. Hi, it's Marilyn Price with the Mentor Project, about to present to you, if you're ready for a ride, Tootle by Gertrude Crampton. What a wonderful lesson we are going to receive when we learn how to stay on track. So a lot of that's going to happen is going to happen back here and from my head and my heart, my imagination. But the story is from Gertrude Crampton, a '3 bestseller for the whole entire Golden Book series. I know that a lot of you may have been around when it came out in 1940. Let's be careful we remember it right. 45. That's a long time ago. But #3 bestseller would put it up into the millions and millions of books and people who have enjoyed Tootle as Tootle struggles to stay on track. So some of our story will come from here. It is not a magic board, but this is what allows us to tell it. I'm just going to exaggerate our track here so you'll know where Tootle is supposed to be, because that is one of the lessons that Tootle needs to learn in order to be a grown-up locomotive. So come along with me to a town called Lower Train Switch, which is easy for you to say, and we're going to do our best. And of course, we all need to have one of these in order to get there. That is our train whistle, and that will bring us to our story. Far, far to the west of everywhere is the village of Lower Train Switch. All the baby locomotives go there to learn to be big locomotives. The young locomotives steam up and down the tracks, trying to call out the long, sad toot, toot of the big locomotives. But the best they can do is a gay little tootle. Toot, toot. Lower Train Switch has a fine school for engines. There are lessons in whistle blowing, stopping for a red flag safely, screeching when stopping, and clicking and clacking over the rails. Of all the things that are taught in the Lower Train Switch School for locomotives, the important is, of course, staying on the tracks, no matter what. The head of the school is an old engineer named Bill. Bill always tells the new locomotives he will not be angry if they sometimes spill the soup pulling the diner, or if they turn the milk to butter now and then. But they will never, never be good trains unless they get 100 A+ in staying on the rails no matter what. All the baby engines worked very hard to get 100 A+ in staying on the rails. After a few weeks, not one of the engines in the Lower Train Switch School for trains would even think of getting off the rails, no matter what. One day, a new locomotive named Tootle came to school. "Here is the finest baby I've seen in a long time," said old Bill. He patted the gleaming young locomotive and said, "How would you like to grow up and be the flyer between New York and Chicago?" "If a flyer goes very fast, I should like to be one," answered Tootle. "I love to go fast. Watch me." He raced around the roundhouse. "Good, good," said Bill. "You must study whistle blowing, puffing loudly when starting, stopping for a red flag waving, and pulling the diner without spilling the soup. But most of all, you must study staying on the rails no matter what. Remember, you can't be a flyer unless you get 100 A+ in staying on the rails." Tootle promised that he would remember and that he would work very hard. He did, too. He even worked hard at stopping for a red flag waving. Tootle did not like those lessons at all. There is nothing a locomotive hates more than stopping. But Bill said that no locomotive ever kept going when he saw a red flag waving. One day, while Tootle was practicing for his lesson on staying on the rails no matter what, a dreadful thing happened. He looked across the meadow and he saw a fine, strong black horse. "Racy to the river!" shouted the black horse, and kicked up his heels. Away went the horse, his black tail streaming out behind him, and his mane tossing in the wind. Oh, how he could run! "Here I go," said Tootle to Tootle's self. "I'm going to be a flyer, and I can't let a horse beat me. Everyone at school will laugh at me." His wheels turned so fast they were silver streaks. The cars lurched and bumped together, and just as Tootle was sure he would win, the tracks made a great curve. "Oh, whistle! That horse will beat me now. He'll run straight while I have to take the great curve." And then a dreadful thing happened. After all that Bill had said about staying on the rails no matter what, Tootle jumped off the tracks and raced alongside the black horse. The race ended in the tie. Both Tootle and the black horse were happy. They stood on the banks of the river and talked. "It's nice here in the meadow," Tootle said. When Tootle got back to school, he said nothing about leaving the rails, but he thought about it that night in the roundhouse. "Tomorrow I will work hard. I will not even think of leaving the rails, no matter what." And he did work hard. He practiced tootling, toot, 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 so much that the mayor himself ran up the hill, his coattails flapping, and said that everyone in the village had a headache. "And would you please stop tootling?" So Tootle was sent to practice staying on the rails no matter what. As he came to the great curve, Tootle looked across the meadow. It was filled with butterflies and buttercups. "It's like a big yellow carpet. How I should like to play in them and hold one under my searchlight to see if I like butter. But no, I'm going to be a flyer, and I must practice staying on the rails no matter what." Tootle clicked and clacked, around the great curve. His wheels began to say over and over again, "Do you like butter? Do you like butter? Do you like butter? Do you, do you, do you?" "I don't know," said Tootle crossly, "but I'm gonna find out." He stopped much faster than any good flyer ever does, unless he is stopping for a red flag waving, but he wasn't. He hopped off the tracks, bumped along the meadow to the yellow buttercups. "Oh, what fun," said Tootle. And he danced around and around and around, and he held one of those buttercups under his searchlight. "I do like butter, I do." As the sun began to go down, and it was time to hurry to the roundhouse, Tootle did. That evening, when the chief oiler was playing checkers with old Bill, he said, mighty peculiar. I found grass between Tootle's front wheels today." Said Bill. "There must be grass growing on the tracks." "Not on our tracks," said the day watchman, who spent his days watching the tracks and his nights watching Bill and the chief oiler play checkers. Bill's face was stern. Tootle knows he must get a 100 plus in staying on the rails no matter what, if he is going to be a flyer. Next day, Tootle played all day in the meadow. He watched a green frog, gribbit, gribbit, gribbit. He made a daisy chain. He found a rain barrel, and he said softly, "Toot, toot." "Why, I sound like a flyer already. Yay!" That night, the first assistant oiler said that he had found a daisy in Tootle's bell. The day after that, the second assistant oiler said he had found hollyhock flowers in Tootle's 8 bowls of soup in the diner. And then the mayor himself said that he had seen Tootle chasing butterflies in the field. Early one morning, Bill had a long talk with the mayor himself. When the mayor himself left the lower train switch school for locomotives, he left all the way to the village. Bill's plan will surely put Tootle back on track. Bill ran from one store to the next, buying 10 yards of this and 20 yards of that, and all you have of the other. And the chief oiler and the first, second, and third assistant oiler were hammering and sawing instead of oiling and polishing. And Tootle, well, Tootle was in the meadow, watching the butterflies fly by and wishing he could dip and soar as they did. Not a store in Lower Train Switch was open the next day, and not a person was at home. By the time the sun came up, every villager was hiding in the meadow along the tracks, and each of them had a red flag. It had taken all the red goods in Lower Train Switch and hard work by the oilers, but everyone in the village had a red flag. Everyone. Soon Tootle came tootling happily along. When he came to the meadow, he hopped off the tracks and rolled along the grass. Just as he was thinking what a beautiful day it was, a red flag popped up, and he stopped. I'll go another way. He turned and started to go another way when along came another red flag, this time from the middle of the buttercups. He turned and went faster and faster, and every time he went, another buttercup came by. Poor Tootle. This is no fun. What to do? Finally, he thought he would go back to the track, and so he did. This time, no matter where he looked, there were red flags. They were waving from the buttercups, and they were waving from the daisies and under the trees and near the bluebird's nest, and even one behind the rain barrel. And he had to talk for everyone. Red flags? This meadow is full of red flags. How can I have any fun? Whenever I start, I have to stop. Why did I think this meadow was such a good idea? Just as he was about to start crying, he turned around, and there was Bill, holding a green flag. Why, this is the place for me, said Tootle. There is nothing but red flags for locomotives in the meadow. Hooray, shouted the people of Lower Train Switch, and they jumped up from their hiding places. And now Tootle is a very famous 2-mile-a-minute flyer. He goes from New York to Chicago. The young locomotives now listen to his advice, and this is what he tells them. Work hard. Always remember to stop for a red flag waving. But most of all, stay on the rails, no matter what. And that, my friends, is a story of Tootle, who learned to stay on track and stop at the red flags. He learned to give the greatest of toots. It could have sounded, get ready, something like this. Doo, 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 because he is a flyer, and so should you be. Will you all fly safe? And remember, this is the Mentor Project. We do stories just for you, especially stories like this one. So pick up a copy, listen to this story again. I know you will enjoy it over and over and over again. And that, as we say in train, it is time to